So you've captured an unadulterated fart in a jar. I was barred for life for having a fight with real feces in the room. I don't go small. See, here's the but. I need all the followers I can get. Brett! We are extremely happy to be talking to Jake Donoghue. If you are invested in crypto, if you're thinking about investing in crypto, this is absolutely the episode that you want to tune into.
In 2016, 2017, I was working in sales and trading. So, I mean, we were working with some of the biggest companies in the world. People were getting this just ridiculous yield, 20% on a stable coin.
You're telling me of a dream success story, yet for some reason, you gave all that up.
The whole industry is geared towards preying on people's emotions, eliciting a very visceral, emotive response. It all kind of hinges on this concept of FOMO, so fear of missing out.
What I really don't understand is how these followers don't understand that the influencer is using you to pump up their own bag.
I'm a crypto skeptic, right. as you probably gathered. I think
I would have never guessed.
The industry is a bit of a hydra. So, you cut off one head and then two emerge. What I would say is don't believe anything that you see or hear. The volumes, they're all fake.
Right. I'm Brett Johnson, former United States Most Wanted criminal. In today's world, criminals come in all shapes and sizes, but they've all got one thing in common. They all have criminal thoughts. On today's episode, we are extremely happy to be talking to Jake Donoghue. He is the author of Crypto Confidential, an insider account from the Frontlines of Fraud. Jake is going to be talking to us about the entire crypto industry. And if you are invested in crypto, if you're thinking about investing in crypto, this is absolutely the episode that you want to tune into. Now, before we get to that point, I wanted to address something. And what I wanted to address, so on my Twitter, I've got like 10,000 followers, and I'm very happy to have those 10,000 followers. It's closing in on 11,000 followers. I need all the followers I can get. One of these followers, because I have been posting stuff that is not fraud related. I've been posting stuff that's not cybercrime related or identity theft related or cybersecurity related. I've been posting some political content. Political content? Yes. Political content. Well, who do you support? Well, I don't really support anybody. I hate them all. But the incumbent, I really don't like. So I've been posting some stuff about fuck Biden. I've been posting stuff about Palestine, Israel as well. Now here's the thing. I've had some feedback on that. I've had some people. So October 7th happened, and I am a supporter of Israel, bar none. I am. But see, here's the but. But that does not mean that I have to be okay with every single thing the IDF is doing in Gaza. There are 35,000 people that have been murdered, innocent people that have been murdered in Israel's thirst to rid the planet of Hamas. All right. And that is a good goal to have, to get rid of Hamas. But doing it while you're killing 35,000 innocent civilians is not. So I've posted stuff about that. And I've gotten a lot of flack from that. The thing is we live in a world where both things can be true. We live in a world where, yes, October 7th can happen, and I can fully support Israel. But we also live in a world where, hey, even though I fully support Israel, I can call out some of the bullshit that they're doing. Okay? And that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. You don't. You don't have to agree with me that I say fuck Biden all the time. You don't. You don't have to listen. You don't have to tune in. You can stop following whatever you want to do. But I would urge you to not cordon yourself off in your own little echo chamber. We, the people, the United States, we primarily became a great country because of this thing called a melting pot. People come in with different ideas, different insights, different opinions, different life experiences. And even though sometimes we would not agree with those people, we allowed them to voice those things, to get out those opinions, to say what they wanted to say, to share their life experiences. And we didn't agree with it sometimes we did, but we allowed that because that's what made this country great. And somewhere along the way, we've forgotten that. Somewhere along the way, we've said that, hey, if you don't support my opinion, then you are my enemy. If you don't believe exactly what I believe, then I don't want to listen to you. I'll go find somebody that believes exactly what I want to believe, and that's the only thing I'll tune into, whether it be Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, Russian TV, what have you. We've got to get away from that. We've got to understand that it's okay to have a different opinion. It's okay to voice that opinion. I'm not forcing it upon anyone, and you're not forcing your opinion upon me, but I respect your opinion. And I would urge people to respect each other's opinions at the end of the day and be open-minded while they're at it. Now, that being said, we're going to get over to Brian and see what we've got in the news today.
The FBI's battle to take down breach forums once and for all continues. The FBI and Department of Justice seized the cybercrimes forum's site and took over a Telegram channel belonging to its latest admin this past Wednesday, according to the screenshots of breach forum's domain and corresponding Telegram channel.
Well, there you go. So here's the deal. So they shut down the Telegram channel. I actually had a law enforcement friend of mine reach out to me, and he's like, Brett, you have said time and again that Telegram does not share information with law enforcement. So how the hell did they shut down the Telegram channel? It is a fact that Telegram does not share any information with law enforcement. That is a fact. They do not answer subpoena requests or anything else. Now, that being said, is it possible that one of the upper tier 3-letter agencies in the United States might have some exploit? It's possible. It's a little bit beyond possible. I think it's very, very probable. And I don't say that lightly, but I'm privy to some information that some people are not sometimes. So that's a possibility of why breach forums would have been shut down. But now that being said, so here's an educational moment for everyone. 3-letter agencies, whether it be FBI, Secret Service, DEA, DOD, whatever, they typically do not share any information at all with any other agency. All right, they've got their little business going on, and they look down on everyone else that's in the government. So they typically don't share information, and that's because of budgetary concerns. It's because of hubris. There's several different reasons that happens. So probably not that. So then the next question is, well, maybe they arrested somebody like that admin that had access to the main Telegram channel. That's probably exactly what happens. And they come in and they shut it down. Probably exactly. The third thing that might have happened, they seized the servers, and the servers were used to access Telegram at that point. So once you seize the server, you've got an open Telegram channel. At that point, you come in, you can breach it and do whatever you want to at that point. End of the day, what we see is with things like breach forums and what the FBI does an outstanding job. But what we see is diligence on the part of the FBI. There's a rule as a criminal. The rule is that as a criminal, I have to be right every single day. If I mess up once, I'm fucked. All right. And we see this time and time again, that criminals cannot be right every single day. The longer you go committing crime, the more likely you're going to be identified, compromised, and thrown in prison. And we know what the prison experience is, don't we? Yes, you learn to poo in front of other men. So let's carry on.
Published novelist Joyce Miller wrote an article about an industry that had been booming from the bowels of entrepreneurship and exploding into the market with great force at the surface. She became a millionaire in 2022 by selling jars of her farts online, a business she started back in 2017. She supports her dreams with a proprietary fart jarring method, along with an online course.
All right, so here we go. Now, I have been looking for multiple revenue streams. I absolutely have. My wife read this article and she's like, hey, have you seen this? I was like, have I seen what? She's like, this lady is selling jars of farts. And I stopped everything that I was doing. I sat there thinking about the brilliance of that. So you've captured an unadulterated fart in a jar. You've capped it up. You've sold it to somebody. Now, what does that person do? Well, obviously, I mean, okay. Now, without a doubt, there's a certain demographic of individuals out there that like to hang out in truck stop bathrooms to smell people poo. All right, that's a fact. I know it's weird, but people get their little jostles off doing weird shit sometimes. Okay, so you got a demographic of people like that, but typically you're going to take that jar of farts and you're going to have it sent to your enemy. Is what you're going to do, in the hopes that they unscrew that jar, take a whiff, and start to gag right there immediately. And I was thinking, because I've got to be honest with you guys, if the color black could have a smell, that would be my farts. I'm just saying. If despair had a smell, that's what comes out of my rectum. That's it. I just want you to know. And it goes, I talk about this stuff all the time to the family. You know, I'll go and I'll use the restroom, the number 2 on the porcelain throne. I'll go and use the restroom and I'll come back out and I'll sit down in the den and they'll look at me because they know that shit's coming. They'll look at me and they'll say, what? You have no idea. You have no idea. That was like a Mack truck just came out of my ass. Exactly. How did you know? Yes, I take my shirt off. I go naked. I go completely naked. I absolutely do. And I grasp my hands and I push and pull and plead and beg and pray and scream and cry and bargain and grunt and groan. I do all this stuff. And the smell is something else. It is. I've had people that come in the bathroom after me, and I've heard them gag. And then I gotta tell you, that is the true definition of happiness right there. Another one is when you're riding in the car, and I'll reach over and I'll hit the window lock button, and nobody will know it. I'll hit the window lock button. I let out that SBD, that silent but deadly, and I just sit there driving. And then all of a sudden, one of them will look at me and say, "You did it, didn't you?" And I just start cackling right there. And then they try to roll down the window, and they can't. And then the anger ensues.
You must have been fun in prison.
I know. Imagine a business where you're able to actually bottle that fart. So in my trip down the rabbit hole, I actually started to look about how does one go about capturing an unadulterated fart to sell? And this is it. So now walk through this, because I'm not sure that the person who wrote this article really understands this. So I'm a 6'4" individual. All right. I go 250 pounds, and they're saying that what you have to do is you have to get in the water and you fart underwater and you capture the fart in the jar. Okay, so it displaces the water that's in the jar. You capture the fart that's in the jar. Now my thing is first of all, where do I get a bathtub big enough that I can lay on my stomach with my ass in the air, fart, hold the jar, capture the fart in the jar? That's going to be difficult to begin with.
Right.
I'm just saying. I'm thinking about this logically all of a sudden. All right. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure you can do that. So maybe. And bear with me on this, maybe the best idea is to get one of those, butt bongs.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
So you shove the tube up your butt.
That's classy.
Ass. That's right. And the tube goes directly into the jar. Maybe the jar's got water and the tube will, displace the water at that point, and you're able to capture it at that point. Now, how much should we charge for a jar of farts? See, this is stuff you got to think about. How much should you charge? And not only that, but let's be honest, there are different types of things that you could use that would give different undertones to the fart that's being bottled. You could eat sauerkraut.
You've thought about this a lot.
I have. You could have a whole diet of legumes that week. Pinto beans. That's the kind of stuff that you want. You would want
there's
to
an arrow pointing from the butt.
I know, right?
Like fart this direction.
See, it goes up. It goes up. I don't know what else to say other than that. I'm just saying that, hey, if some people can make money on that, I'm just saying I'm tempted. I tell you what I did. We'll close it out after this. But when I was married to my first wife, there's this place. I don't know if they still got them or not. They're called Spencer's Gifts.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was popular in the malls out here.
Exactly. It's called Spencer's Gifts. You go in there and it was, you'd buy your T-shirts, you'd buy your lava lamps, and then you'd have a little section that would titillate people as well. And we were going on a vacation. It was me, my first wife, her two brothers, and her mom. So her two brothers were, young teenagers at that point. So Brady, I bought a can of it was called canned bullshit. Was what it's called. Oh
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And we had that night in the hotel room, we had a canned bullshit fight, spraying it on each other, spraying it all over the hotel room and everything else. Little did I know, about 3 weeks after our vacation, I got a letter from the hotel saying that I was barred for life for having a fight with real feces in the room. Yes. And I got to tell you, I cackled and I was so proud of that letter, but I'm still not allowed in that hotel to this day. But that's my story there. Let's carry on. All right, on today's Crypto Corner, that's right, it's the premier Crypto Corner. As you may or may not know, I, Brady, your humble host, has decided to delve into crypto and try to make some money, and I'm doing okay. Now, that being said, doing okay also means that I have had my ass ripped off not once, not twice, not 3 times, no, not even 4 times. I've had my ass ripped off at least 5 times. At least, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fucking times. I'm not happy about that. But it's an educational thing. It truly is. When I was scammed as a criminal, and yes, I was often scammed as a criminal, I viewed that as a learning experience and part of the price of doing business. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now in the crypto environment. It's part of the price of doing business. That being said, it's also educational. So I wanted to talk about this one token that I got ripped off on, and it was called Soul Street Bets was the name of the token. So what happens is for those who may not remember, a few years ago on Reddit, we had a subreddit called Wall Street Bets, and there was a gentleman who started talking about GameStop, and he started talking about AMC. So especially with GameStop, what he did was they started to, all the people who were short selling that, they almost broke the stock market. These people come in, they started to buy the stocks, the stock price starts to go up. All the short sellers are like, holy fuck, what are we going to do? And they were talking about losing billions of dollars through hedge funds, through everything else, okay? This guy, they made a movie out of him on Netflix called Dumb Money. He disappears. Well, not disappears. He just goes away for a while. He comes back about 6 days ago and just makes one post, okay? When he makes that post, all of these associated tokens, these memes, they start to skyrocket. So you had deep fucking value starts to skyrocket. GME starts to skyrocket. AMC starts to skyrocket. Even there was a token that was based on the name of the guy's pet. It starts to skyrocket. Well, another one was called Soul Street Bets. All right. So Soul Street Bets, Brady, your humble host, I was looking at tokens. I found this one. It was starting to skyrocket, and I'm like, that looks pretty good. Volume was outstanding. Everything else was outstanding. The DEX score was good and high. It had 99 out of 100, 99 out of 99. So everything looked good on there. It had paid for CMC. They were doing paid advertising. They had gotten listed on CoinGecko. They had been listed everywhere that they needed to be. So it looked very legitimate. So I bought into it to the tune of about $4,000 because I don't go small. So I bought like $4,000 worth of these tokens. Okay. And I go to sleep at night I go to sleep. I rest my weary head with a market cap of like $4 million. And it's continuing. As I go to sleep, it's skyrocketing. I'm like, yes, I'm going to make some good money off this. Wake up the next fucking morning. Market cap is like at $350,000. And I'm like, what the actual fuck has happened? Yes, there's the fucking graph. You see that? You see that slide? That's what I got on. So I'm on the Telegram channel like, what the fuck is going on? And the developer is not posting anything. He's not commenting anything, but he's left a message. He said, hey, any whales, private message me and I'll let you into the private group. So I'm like, okay, I'm definitely a whale because I spent $4,000 fucking dollars on your token. So I message him. He lets me into the private group and you've got all these whales. Now, a whale is someone who owns a significant amount of that token. All right. So you think 5, 10%, something like that. Okay. I think at that point, I was owning like 3% of the token. All these whales are in there. The developer, the creator of the token, is telling them that, hey, I did a rug pull, meaning that I took all the liquidity out. I sold all of my tokens. I have profited. I waited until it got that $4 million market cap until Brett Johnson bought his fucking ass in. I waited until that point, and then once I knew that he bought, I sold it all. So fuck Brett. And also fuck everybody else. So sold it all. He's told the whales this, and then he says, hey, we need to do something about that. And I'm sitting there watching like, we? What the fuck is we? There wasn't no we when you sold everything. But the other whales are not of that mentality. The other whales are sitting there going, yes, we need to do something about that. And they're conspiring against each other. They're not against each other. They're conspiring with each other on how to rip off everyone else who has invested in this token. Everyone else. And they're trying to come up with a good lie that people will believe. And they're sitting there saying, well, we could say it's a community takeover. And they're like, no, we can't say that because as soon as you say it's a community takeover, everyone's going to sell everything else that they've got, even though it's not worth any fucking thing right now. So they're like, well, what are we going to do? So they come up with this idea. Well, we'll come back in and we'll say that the developer has handed over the reins, the control of everything, to us. So it's not really a community takeover. It's just the developer has decided to move on to something else. In all fairness, I was down, about $3,000. And I'm sitting there reading this and I'm sitting there going, okay, so they're wanting to go back in, lie to the rest of the community. And this community had several thousand members in there. Lie to the rest of the community and lie to them long enough that they buy back into the token, raise the prices up so that these whales can cash out and not lose any money. And here I am. I'm one of these whales that's in this group talking about this. And I sat there a minute. And I got to tell you, it wasn't really even a question with me. I'd like to tell you that I was tempted. I wasn't. What I did was I took this screenshot and I came back into the public Telegram community, posted the screenshot, said, hey, the developer sold everything. It's a rug pull. I just sold everything as well. I'm fucking out. I don't know how many people I saved money. I know at least 2. They direct messaged me after that and thanked me for it. I was promptly banned from that Telegram community. The Crypto Corner today that I'm talking about, we have Jake Donoghue on the show. And Jake has talked about how the entire crypto industry is set up to manipulate newcomers, those people who are not informed, those people who do not understand how the crypto environment actually operates. This is a prime example of that, of how everything is conspiring against the new people in order to make money off of them. This is something that you need to understand. I'm in the crypto world right now, gambling. I don't call it investing. I call it gambling. And I'm doing okay. But if you will be to get into this, you need to understand that there are more predators in the water than prey. That the people who are these predators, they are better at this than you are, period. And they're always going to be better at it than you are. If you can understand that, if you can understand the way the crypto community works, And if you still, at the end of that, decide that you want to try it, then that's on you. I'm of the belief that if you sit back objectively and look at the way things are working, that no rational person would want to get involved in the crypto industry. That's my belief. All right. I mentioned it during Jake's interview, and I'm going to mention it again. If you don't do anything else, if you will be to get involved with this, please exercise extreme caution. That's the number one rule. Exercise extreme caution and do not put more money into it than you are willing to lose completely, because more than likely you are going to lose everything completely. And that is today's Crypto Corner. All right, for today's main segment of the show, I am beyond ecstatic to be talking to Jake Donoghue. Now, in all fairness, Jake Donoghue is a pseudonym. Now, why is he using a pseudonym? Well, he's using a pseudonym because this gentleman has written a book. The book comes out August 22nd of this year. Its title is Crypto Confidential, an insider's account from the Frontlines of Fraud. So Jake Donoghue is our guest today. It's a crypto episode. Jake, I was very fortunate last week to have Jake on a Twitter Spaces with me, and the amount of knowledge, insight, and understanding that the man has with crypto is beyond anything that I've seen, I think, during my entire tenure dealing with crypto. So that being said, let's bring on Jake Donoghue and talk crypto for a little bit. Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Brett, thanks so much for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, my friend. So, hey, out of the gate, I was reading some of the Twitter responses where you said you were coming on the show. One of the people, they tweeted in and they asked to talk about the Phoenix coin rug pull.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know what tweets you're referring to there. Yeah.
Right. So, and first of all, just for so that we're all on the same page, and I know I've got some listeners who really don't understand crypto at all. Can you explain what a rug pull is?
Yeah, I mean, a rug pull can take multiple forms. In its kind of most basic, crude form, it is an exit scam. It is when you drain the liquidity from a liquidity pool of a crypto token. So say, for example, a crypto token is trading on a decentralized exchange like Uniswap, which is the biggest in the industry. The developers of that token will then either sell all of their treasury or team tokens into that liquidity pool, basically extracting all the value, all the money, whether that's in ETH or whatever the kind of counter currency might be.
Sure.
Or kind of going about that in a different way, either pulling it directly or selling tokens into the liquidity pool. That's it in its most basic format. So basically just taking the money that people have put into this token, into this liquidity pool, and then running off with it. But exit scams can take many different formats. I mean, there are people who run off with funds even before their token's launched.
Right.
They'll conduct a pre-sale on the premise that people send them funds and they send them tokens later, and then lo and behold, the investors just won't receive any tokens, and the people will just run off.
Sure,
and all these people who are anonymous, so it's very, very difficult to track them down.
So what happened with the Phoenix token?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting case because this team wasn't anonymous. This team was very much in the spotlights. A lot of them were doxxed, which means they had revealed their identities. They also raised a lot of money. Some reports, some articles put that figure upwards of $600 million.
Oh, wow.
So obviously that is a lot of capital to be raising. What happened was they issued a token. This token was incredibly hyped, incredibly shilled by a lot of very, very prominent influencers. They issued this token, and then they started doing a lot of marketing and promotion around it. One of the things that they did for marketing was they funded some APPGs. That's an all-party parliamentary group. So this is an official UK parliamentary group of politicians, which they're going to get together to discuss various topics, right? In this case, they were funding the blockchain APPG. And then they would go to events and they'd speak about crypto and Web3 and blockchain at these parliamentary events in UK Parliament. And a lot of people speculating that they were doing that to give themselves a veneer of credibility, right? So these guys weren't operating in the shadows. They were very, very public, right in the heart of politics, no less. what happened was the token appreciated massively in price after it launched. And then all of a sudden, it started dumping, right? So that obviously raised alarm bells, people asking them what's going on. A lot of speculation whether the insiders, the team, people who bought pre-sale allocations were dumping their tokens. Negative sentiment started spreading. And then what happened was the team basically shut down the protocol. So what this token did, without going into all the technicalities of it,
Sure.
you would buy a certain amount of these tokens, deposit them into a protocol, you'd start what they were calling a nest, right? And then that nest generated you interest, it generated you yield, with estimates being that you would pay back your initial investment, you would receive enough funds to cover your initial investment after 45 days. And after that point, you're just making profit from the yield that you're generating. What they did was they just shut it down. People weren't able to access the tokens that they had invested into these nests, and then the people just disappeared. They ran off with the funds that they had raised pre-launch, and a lot of the post-launch funds as well. And then after that happened, the token just went to nothing. At one point, it was trading at $500. It then went down to 50 cents.
Oh wow!
So
how long was the token up and alive before they shut it down?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll have to look into that. It was there for a reasonable amount of time, I think. Even after it launched, they were kind of doing these marketing events, doing these marketing stunts. I'll get back to you with an exact figure on that. It was there for a while, which kind of led to even more suspicions. Like why did they run off at that point? And what caused them to do this? Ostensibly they had a seemingly successful project. Obviously, insiders were taking profit; they were dumping, tokens onto the market. But still, they could have seen it out. But they decided to run off. And now, by some accounts, one of the founders is living in the Philippines. So I was reading, some journalists, some investigators trying to get in touch with him. He said he wasn't going to speak to anyone unless they come to the Philippines to talk to him, which obviously no one's going to do. No one's going to rock up at Manila airport and expect to.
So let me ask you, Jake. Let me ask you, because you referred to this token as paying interest after 45 days. They get back their initial quote unquote investment. That really sounds a lot like a Ponzi scheme in the making.
Yeah, it is. I think the term Ponzi gets thrown around a lot in the space. I think this token definitely had a lot of the hallmarks of a Ponzi. You have to ask yourself where's the yield coming from and all of this stuff. We saw this with Terra Luna as well, probably the most textbook cut and dry case of a Ponzi that the industry has seen. People were getting this just ridiculous yield, 20% on a stable coin. Which was insane. A lot of companies, they saw that and they parked their entire treasury into Anchor staking protocol for that yield. Right. And then it turns out that the yield was just coming, it was just coming from the Terraform Labs. They had a reserve amount of tokens and they were just feeding that out to Anchor, and eventually they just couldn't fund that anymore. They couldn't keep that going. And then it all, the rest is history after that.
And I want to move on from the Phoenix token, but do you think the developers of the Phoenix token, and I do, but do you think that they intended from the start for it to be a scam or not?
Difficult to tell with these kind of things. I think I was talking about this with someone just this week on Twitter. About what is the essence of a kind of pump and dump. I think as opposed to a bubble. I think all pump and dumps are bubbles, but not all bubbles are pump and dumps. I think the difference between the two is that there's intentionality with a pump and dump. They know from the offsets, even before they start pumping a token, the people who are behind it know that they're going to pump it up as high as they can, so they can instantly take the liquidity away. So there's that intentionality there. Now, with a lot of crypto scams, is that the case? Do they have intentionality from the start of rugging? I don't think so. A lot of the times it's, they end up, exiting the project because of incompetence. Sometimes, they become the victims of the, of the market. I know some people who had very good intentions when they started their project, and then because of, industry trends, what was happening in the kind of broader space, they had to shut down. Sure. Some people may have had their funds on FTX or some people may have had their funds in Anchor, and then, after that, they just didn't have any runway after not being able to access those funds.
The book is Crypto Confidential, an insider's account from the Frontline of Fraud. The author is Jake Donoghue. The book is out August 22nd of this year. We're talking to the author today. Jake, an insider's account. So talk to me about your history with crypto.
Yeah, so got into crypto, when was it? I had exposure to it from a long time ago. I first got exposure back in 2016, 2017. I was working in sales and trading at a subsidiary of a large US investment bank. I was working on their prime brokerage, so basically providing execution, trading execution to wholesale institutions, so medium-sized hedge funds, that kind of stuff. And I was on the team which launched the firm's first crypto derivatives. So back then, we had Bitcoin, we had Ether, we had a derivative on XRP, but not so many. There weren't so many tokens, on the market back then. Left that and then pivoted out of finance for a bit. Returned in when was it? Kind of 2020. Yeah, 2020. Towards the end of 2020, so just after a period called DeFi summer, which is when things really started kicking off. This is when a lot of the kind of decentralized money markets started popping up. Yearn, that kind of stuff, YFI, all of those kind of early DeFi tokens. There was a lot of hype around crypto during that time. It was around the time of the halving as well. The last halving, it was just prior to that. So things were really heating up. A few of my, contacts were starting up some projects around that time, and they asked me to come on board to help with their marketing. And then things just escalated from there. I ended up in the role of the Chief Communications Director for a project which we launched in, if my memory serves correctly, early 2021.
Okay.
And that was really the kind of IDO frenzy. Just these awful projects were launching and just do 100x just on day one.
Right.
Influence. This was, that people used to say this was the last fully unregulated bull run. The regulators hadn't even, crypto wasn't even really on their radars then. So right. You could say whatever you want, you could do whatever you want. So just the influence of shilling, the kind of market manipulation that was going on was just insane. So, we launched our token around that time, and it was just insane. Never seen anything like it. We did over 12,000% price increase on the day of launch. Yeah. So we launched with a $3 million market cap, and within a few hours of being tradable, the token had a fully diluted valuation of over $300 million.
So you went from a 3 million market cap to a 300 million fully diluted market cap.
Yeah, on the day of launch. Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
Yeah, honestly, I've never seen anything anything like it. The problem with that is that it's difficult to realize those gains. We were realizing some of it, but most of our tokens were in the treasury. People were really scrutinizing the blockchain, watching it like hawks, especially because there was so much hype around it. So it was difficult to kind of access that, to tap into that. So we had this incredibly high value project, but we didn't have a platform live, obviously. That goes without saying. People were launching tokens, then launching platforms years later, just to kind of rush their tokens onto the market. So we were looking for sources of cash flow, of revenue generation. And what we had was an inbox full of people, other projects, contacts of ours, whoever, basically begging us for our help with marketing, because we had just nailed the marketing around our token, and we had a great network of partners and people who were basically, shilling our coins. So we were like, well, why don't we just spin up a marketing agency? Why don't we just charge these? Because we had hired marketing agencies for our launch. Sure. They were charging $20,000, $30,000 for a month of work, and they're not doing very much work because not much was required. So then we did that. We set up a marketing agency, and then that took off. We scaled to dozens of team members within a year, 1.5 million pounds EBIT within the first year of operations. That's 1.5 million pounds profit. We never had to take on any debt or equity financing or anything like that. And through that, we had exposure to some of the biggest projects in the industry. We were working with, household name companies,
Right.
Both crypto companies and also a lot of traditional companies as well. Back then, especially when NFTs started coming into the scene, everyone was just scrambling to get involved in crypto. People wanted that exposure to this kind of huge audience, this huge user base of young, kind of, I guess, like, for lack of a better word, fashionable or trendy demographic internet natives as well. So you had these very traditional companies scrambling to launch NFTs. So they needed advisors to kind of shepherd them through that process, because it can be daunting. If you're a
Right.
60-year-old business person, you started working before the internet even existed, and suddenly you're talking about the open internet, decentralized, that kind of stuff. You don't know what the hell's going on. So
Right.
we would advise them. We would take their products to market. We were working with some of the biggest companies in the world, basically. So saw a lot of stuff during that time.
Yeah, I have no doubt, and what you're telling me is you're telling me of a dream success story. Yet for some reason you gave all that up.
That's right. Yeah. This is discussed at length in the book. There was always this kind of underlying tension. With the marketing agency that we were running, we were a UK registered company. We were above board. But that being said, we had exposure to just a lot of illicit stuff. The
Right.
projects that we were working for, partners of ours in the space. Every day there was just something going on. Whether, even if it wasn't the projects doing it, it was being done to them. So there were just hacks. Our clients getting hacked, and this kind of stuff. And just the amount of kind of dirty tricks which are used in the space, the shilling, the brown envelope journalism. I just did a big post on Twitter about that. People buying media articles undisclosed, portraying them as the objective press,
Right.
and it's just completely bought and paid for. So I was pretty shocked by that stuff from the moment I joined the industry. My first impression of it all was this is a bit of a cowboy operation. People on Telegram coordinating this stuff, but then there were just such big sums involved. The figures were just, I'd never seen anything like it, and you're so close to it that you kind of get a bit blinded by it. So eventually, the scams, the fraud, the illicit activity just started spiraling. It got worse and worse. You got exposure. As deeper you go into the industry, the deeper you go down that rabbit hole,
Right.
the more you see, the more disenchanted I was getting. And then it all kind of came to a culmination, first with Luna, and then with FTX. I think, the industry really showed its true colors then. And it's hard without wanting. I guess I can leak some content from the book, but I discussed this. In the wake of Luna, there were suicides. People were killing themselves. They had lost their life savings. They'd lost their homes. I talk about one incident which was particularly shocking, of a Korean family. Husband had lost the family's entire life savings, the children's college fund, whatever. And he with his family in the car it's quite dark, but he drove his car into a lake.
Wow.
And just stories like that were just increasingly common. It's really awful stuff, and got to the point when I was I don't want anything to do with this. This is awful. This isn't just influencer shilling, people buying a few tweets, a few articles anymore. This is people's lives. And same with FTX as well.
Yeah, let me ask you something, Jake. And this is I guess this is the big thing for me. I recently started to, I don't even call it invest. I recently started to gamble on crypto tokens, and my gambling has been fairly good so far. But I look at this crypto industry, and I see you are very kind to them. You call them the crypto evangelist. I call them the cult of crypto. But I see this cult-like mentality that hold, never sell, and you can't come in with any type of objective reasoning and talk to these people. At the same time, I see a lot of bots being used to give the impression of volume, to give the impression of that it's trending. I see an entire type of structure that's built that when a new person comes into the crypto environment thinking that they can invest and learn everything that they need to learn and have some sort of objective view of what they're trying to invest in, I see an entire construct almost that's built to manipulate that person into thinking that they're making a wise choice. Am I wrong in that?
No, Brett, you're spot on there, and you know that's exactly what's, you know, this is why that disenchantment I've spoken about, you know, grew so much, because that's exactly what we were involved in with this marketing agency, this massaging of public perception, you know, this image manipulation, all designed to entice new buyers in, to entice in retail. You know, just the amount of kind of duplicitous narratives that permeate the space. You know, just what I would say is, don't believe anything that you see or hear. You know, the volumes, they're all fake. You know, we were working with projects who outright, you know, discuss wash trading their volumes, and you know, we were offered those services as well with our tokens. You know, the exchanges and that kind of stuff, the market makers that we were working with, they all said this. At one point, you know, the volumes of our token dipped very low, and after, you know, the initial hype died down, you know, things kind of went really flat.
Sure.
And we spoke to an exchange that it was listed on, and they said, no, don't worry, we'll just turn the volume bot on. And then we went from $1,000 of volume a day to $20 million of volume a day,
because they turned the volume bot on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same with, I'm planning another big post soon about, I don't know if you see on those kind of data sites, so CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, even things like Dex Tools, you know, you see those trending tokens.
Right.
Even that is bought and paid for.
Right.
So you can hire these specialists, and this costs a lot. This is an expensive service. So I might leak some prices as well. But you know, you hire these specialists, and then they get you trending. So even that kind of stuff, you know, it's all engineered to kind of give a false picture of health of the token and of the overall industry.
So Jake, and like I'm on the Solana blockchain, and what I have found, it didn't take me long to find it out, but what I have found on the Solana blockchain is well over 99% of everything there is a scam. And so the thing, how do you justify someone coming into one of these tokens, and they're looking at, you know, that maybe they don't. Let's be fair. Most people who are in crypto, they have no investment experience whatsoever. So they come in, they find, maybe they hear something from an influencer, or they read an article on CoinDesk, or one of these paid, as you said, the brown journalism, where you're paying for the article on your token to be pumped up there. So they come in there, they see that the price is exploding, you know, 12,000%. They go over to Dex Tools. They see all the buys and the sells. They see that it's trending. They see that it's got maybe a 99 score out of 99, what have you. And they throw whatever money they've got at it, thinking that it's going to be just fine. And then they find out, you know, hey, it's a rug pull, because 99% of everything on Solana is a rug pull. Yeah. I mean, how excuse my language, but how in the hell can you have an industry that's allowed to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're completely right, and you know, it's almost worse than that. You know, they go out of their way to target you know, newcomers to the space. That's why in the last cycle, people were spending, you know, millions on not crypto influencers, not even finance influencers. They were getting celebrities in. Right. They were getting, you know, the Kim Kardashians. You know, she was fined millions by the SEC for promoting, you know, a crypto project. It was called Ethereum Max. You know, awful project, but they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for a just one Instagram story. So I mean, you look at the sponsorship deals that were being struck back then. Tom Brady, with FTX. You know, all these exchanges that were getting just these celebrities to endorse their stuff. These Super Bowl ads as well. You know, these things were deliberately targeted at people who, you know, didn't have any or, you know, much investment experience. I mean, what's what's Kim Kardashian's, how much of her audience are going to be, I mean, because she's got such a big audience, a small percentage of them, statistically probably are investing and, maybe even investing in crypto. But, they want a lot of people are familiar with these celebrities, and they want to get, those newcomers into the space.
The book is Crypto Confidential, an insider account from the Frontline of Fraud. It's out August 22nd of this year. The author is Jake Donoghue. Jake, talking about these celebrity influencers, I'm a former criminal and former cyber criminal at that. One of the things that I found through my criminal career is that if you're looking at that potential victim, and that potential victim is wanting something, they desire something. Maybe it's a Beanie Baby, maybe it's a video game console, or in this case, maybe it's becoming rich on cryptocurrency. Yeah. That desire oftentimes leads that potential victim to put reason, rationale, logic to the side and react emotionally. And what you've described to me with this crypto industry is an entire industry that's built on making sure that the investors, the quote unquote investors, are not acting responsibly, but they're reacting emotionally.
Exactly. Yeah. No, Brett, that's spot on. And there's an old saying in the marketing industry. People won't remember what you made them think. People will remember how you made them feel.
Right.
And the whole industry is geared towards preying on people's emotions, eliciting a very visceral, emotive response from people. And it all kind of hinges on this concept of FOMO, so fear of missing out. So I posted about this the other day as well. What people will say is, and this is the way to spot an influencer that you need to avoid, when they start talking about their previous calls. When they start saying, I could have got you in at Shiba Inu at X price, before it went 1,000x, or
right.
I called Bitcoin at $400 and no one listened to me. That kind of stuff. Again, that's preying on people's emotions. That's them giving themselves, trying to get credibility and trying to make people think that these people give good calls, and
sure.
that they, the next token that they post about, their audience is going to want to get involved in that, because they're going to think it's going to be the one that, is going to go 100x. So this concept of FOMO is prevalent in the space. Yeah.
And that's interesting that you said that. Of course, I follow some of these influencers as well, and I see that to a T. But what's interesting to me is it's almost as if the power of the influencer is not the influencer themselves, it's the community that they've built behind them. So, they come out and they tell their followers, hey, buy this token. Most of those followers are going to go and buy that token. And at that point, you're going to see that 2x, that 5x gain at that point. And
yeah.
What I really don't understand is how these followers don't understand that the influencer is using you to pump up their own bag. That's exactly what's going on. And they've already bought the token before they even tell you to buy the token. They realize those gains immediately. They cash out. I firmly don't believe that they're going to hold that for that potential 1,000x gain.
No way.
They're going to make sure that they cash out, pocket it, and then go on to the next token from that point.
Yeah, exactly. What people need to realize is that if an influencer is really shilling a token very, very hard, they have most likely invested into that token. Now, right. Some influencers will disclose that, and I mean, more and more this is happening. One, because a lot of them got called out for not doing this in previous cycles, but also the SEC is on a warpath, and they have indicted people, they have charged people, fined people for undisclosed promotions of cryptocurrencies, historic undisclosed promotions as well. So people are very twitchy. A lot of tweets are getting deleted. A lot of YouTube videos are getting taken down because of this.
Sure.
But yeah, when influencers are promoting a token, it's because they've bought into the token in the pre-sale round, normally the strategic round.
Right.
And they get very deep discounts on the public listing price because of that. Now, projects will position these people as kind of seed investors or whatever. So they say, well, it's normal for seed investors, angel investors, or whatever to receive discounts. No, I mean, these people aren't. The projects aren't going to these people for their capital. They're going there for their clout. They want that. They want that promotion. So yeah, it's something to be wary of. I mean, there's just so many underhand tactics that they use as well. Because now it's not fashionable to outright just shill a token relentlessly like we saw in the last cycle. So what people will do is they'll say, well, here are my top 5 biggest portfolio holdings at the moment, and it'll be like ETH, Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, and then just some shitcoin with a 50k or 100k MCAP, and it's just like, well, spot the shill in that, obviously, and that's what's happening with meme coins as well. This is whenever you see people talking about, I've seen a lot of influencers talking about meme coins, and meme coins are just the kind of the classic pump and dump, and it's just going insane. But these influencers, they have launched these meme coins themselves with pump.fun or pump.vote, whatever it's called.
Pump.fun. Pump.fun is what it is.
Yeah, with the anyone can launch a token. You don't even need to know what Solidity is to launch a token on there. These influencers will launch their own token and then just pump it up and then just take the liquidity. And it's just like crypto on steroids. I mean, we didn't even see anything like this in the last cycle.
Right.
There have been more tokens issued in the past, I think it's in the past 4 months than there were in the past decade or something like that. There's some statistic around that. But it's about 350,000 new tokens on Solana and about 500,000 on Base, so the Coinbase L2. So it's just insane.
Let me ask you, so my history with crypto, I was a cybercriminal, and we had a couple of precursors of today's crypto. We had eGold, Liberty Reserve. Then, of course, Bitcoin comes in with a blockchain, gains status from that point. One of the things that I've seen throughout the years is, I saw the people as they're, coming into crypto. You had the quote unquote evangelists saying, crypto is going to change the world. And it was referred to as a currency. Then there was a shift somewhere along the way, and you see it on Reddit where they were no longer talking about crypto as a currency, but they started to talk about crypto as buying shares. I own this many shares of this token. Yeah. And then today, you mentioned it or alluded to it just a few seconds ago. We've gotten into kind of the meme thing of cryptocurrency. And it seems to me that we continue to devolve. At one point, people were really worried about or concentrated on the technology. And today I hear the only thing I see is meme this, meme. If you're going to invest, if you're going to gamble on something, it's meme. So could you talk about that for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I mean, Brett, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there with that. What we saw in the last cycle was just all about the tech. That was the narrative. It was all about the tech. People were talking about DAOs. They were talking about, this, that, and the other, whatever. But it was all about the tech underpinning this stuff. And, the innovation, the word innovation was the hottest buzzword in the last cycle. Disrupting this, that, or the other, disrupting whatever industry, building a new financial system. That has all gone out the window. That narrative is no longer tenable. That collapsed first with Luna, and then with, FTX was the final nail in its coffin. So when you get rid of that, when you strip away that false narrative of technological innovation, what is left of crypto? It is the meme. That's it. You're right to say that people used to talk about ownership. People used to talk about, governance was a very hot narrative in the last cycle. Governance tokens. Well, we're going to foster an owner's mentality within our, within our holder base by granting the, conferring on the tokens governance rights. So, voting rights and how the protocols run or whatever. They were art NFT projects which were buying artworks, famous artworks by whoever, Banksy. They fractionalized that into 10,000 NFTs, and each NFT holder had a vote on where the artwork is displayed. So governance rights were the hot thing back then. But once you start talking about ownership rights, then these things start to look a lot like securities, don't they? They start to look a lot like shares. The problem is, and again, this is what's is so fascinating about about crypto. It's a wholly new way of fundraising. It was a way of fundraising. A token sale was a way of fundraising without giving away any equity in the company or raising any debt. you were launching this token, and then just selling that to people. It's a purely speculative asset. It didn't do anything. You didn't get dividends, didn't pay dividends or whatever. You would just expect the price to go up. But so then people said, well, how can we actually confer some kind of utility onto this? So they started giving it governance rights. Then it started to look a lot like a security, and for other reasons as well. I just wrote an article about the consensus lawsuit against the SEC. The consensus suing the SEC for kind of treating ETH like a security since it's moved to proof of stake. So there are other aspects of crypto which make it look like a security, by the Howey test. But yeah, the governance rights very much did. But so people aren't doing that so much anymore. One, because fear of reprisals from the authorities. They don't want that to portray their token as security. But two, also because people have realized that, for lack of a better word, that is all bullshit.
Yeah.
These governance rights didn't exist. If at the end of the day, if the project wanted to pull all the liquidity, if the project wanted to take over the protocol, then they very much could, or they'd hack governance through various ways. So once you strip away those narratives of governance or technological innovation, what you're left with is nothing, basically, purely speculative assets. You're left with the meme, and that's why the kind of tribalism, the defensiveness, and the aggression, I would say, within crypto is getting worse, because back then people would say, well, fine, you can criticize our token, whatever. We have serious substance underpinning it. Now they don't. Now they're just relying on the speculative narrative around it. So if you question that, then you open yourself up to a torrent of abuse. I've had this when I've called out people shilling.
I've had
coins.
this too. There are some people who do not like me very much, and I know there are some people who do not like you very much.
Yeah, I mean that's par for the course. That's to be expected. So they get very defensive about it because they need to protect that that narrative around their coin. But I think
the book is Crypto Confidential, a insider's account from the Frontlines of Fraud. The author is Jake Donoghue. The book is out August 22nd. So Jake, all this being said, and the way that you've explained the crypto industry, is there any fixing it?
It's a good question. Is there any fixing it? I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of great work. I've been speaking to Bitfinex a lot recently. I've been speaking to a lot of Twitter accounts, Parrot Capital, Boring Sleuth. All these people are doing amazing work, kind of calling out the most egregious scams, the most egregious frauds in the space. I think that's really vital. One, to hold these projects to account, and also to warn people about this stuff, because and these guys as well, they've been active for so many years, they've done so much great work. If people had only listened to them around FTX or around some of these other just awful. Well, I mean, Tether's a different beast. We'll probably have to do a different episode just on Tether. But I think that's one way, at least. I think everyone, with a kind of inside knowledge, with an intimate knowledge of how this stuff works, not just from the kind of technical side of things, but from whatever the marketing side or whatever angle, kind of has an obligation to speak up against the scams and the fraud, because otherwise, it's retail that's getting burned.
Right.
These institutions or whoever that are buying this stuff, they're trading this stuff, they're going to be fine. Even if they've lost considerable amounts of money, but it's the guy who has $1,000 in savings and puts that all into a coin that he's been shilled. He's the person that's gonna get hurt in all this. So I think speaking up about it is just makes a huge contribution.
I agree. I do. So that being said, you've got, I guess we're on the cusp of what the crypto people call euphoria. And that's when the common person that knows nothing about crypto at all wants to become rich on some of these tokens. Do you think that it's a wise choice for outsiders to come in and start to play the crypto game or not?
Yes, I'm a crypto skeptic.
Right.
As you probably gathered.
I would have never guessed.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah, I mean, after everything I saw in the last cycle, after I mean, it was just so unpleasant, just so much unpleasantness. It's all in the book. The kind of people that we were working with and how they regard their investors and their buyers. So after all that, you don't really have a choice but to be a skeptic. So
Right.
I'm going to say no to that. Personally, I would advise people to stay away. I know that's difficult when there is so much money in the space, and there are people out there who are making money, who they get lucky and they hit that
Sure.
1000x coin. But in the same way that if people go to the casino, they can make some money. So ultimately, I mean, I've been asked this before. Would you outright just get rid of the industry? I think in an ideal world, it wouldn't be there, because people would kind of know how it really operates, or it would be there in a much kind of simpler format.
Right.
I think. But ultimately, if someone wants to invest in crypto, someone wants to have a punt in crypto, you're not going to be able to stop them in the same way that if someone wants to go to a casino or to gamble, they're going to do it. So I think just kind of warning people around the the red flags, the biggest scams and most egregious acts is is a good thing to do, so that if they do decide to have a punt, then at least they can try and be as safe as possible. And of course, there's the saying, don't invest more than you can.
Right. It's really interesting what you just said there. That idea that you're not going to stop the people from doing that. I once upon a time I knew the head of fraud at Western Union, and he told me, he was like, "Hey, the truth of the matter is that once that person leaves the house, there is nothing that you can do to stop them from sending the money out." And the way you described crypto and these people that are coming in and gambling on these tokens, I think that's that the analogy is very appropriate. You're not going to stop them from gambling, and I don't call it investing at all, because I don't think it is. You're not going to stop them from gambling on these tokens. You're not going to do that. So you're right. I mean, the next best thing that you can do is try to educate people on that. Because I'm sitting here, I ask you that question, and I've had people that have seen and read some of my content about, I got lucky. I got lucky and bought into 2 tokens, and they did really well. And I've had people that have reached out, how can I get involved in that? And my answer has been, you don't, because you're going to lose your ass on it. And I'm with you on that. I'm that crypto skeptic. I do not think that crypto is going to change the world. I do not think that that really you can clean up this industry at all, because of the origins of crypto itself, and just the way that it's crazy, man. If you think about it, so you've got say you've got the developer that's pulling a rug pull. That's okay. You've got that guy, but then you've got the cult of crypto behind that individual that continues to support that individual. Then you've got an entire industry built around, whether it be the CEXs or what have you, that's built on making money from that as well. So it's like every single thing is working against you, and I don't see how regulation fixes that at all. I just don't think you can. And not only that, but you take a token, people don't really understand. You take and I'll use an example, I probably shouldn't say it, but the Brett token, for example, Brett on base. 81% of those tokens are owned by the developers. 81%. Yeah. So, oh my God, who's making money? Yeah, you're going. Yeah, sure. If you're a small fry, maybe you can make some money. But the truth of the matter is that the price is manipulated by the whales that own the majority of the tokens, and it's not just Brett; it's every single token that's out there.
100%. You really have to ask yourself who you're up against. Right. Who are you trading against? You mentioned the sexes at the centralized exchanges. I mean, these people have access to all the everyone's kind of trading data, everyone's information. They can see who has what positions and where. They can see where the stop losses is. They can see all the order book information right there in front of them. And like we saw, if you said this a few years ago, you'd be labeled a conspiracy theorist. But we saw this now with Alameda, where the conflicts of interest, these exchanges are trading on their own exchange, or they'll be embedded in market makers. In the case of Alameda and FTX, it was basically the same company. Alameda was the largest market maker on FTX, and they operated in the same building in the Bahamas. The CEO was Sam's ex-girlfriend. So they lived in the same apartment in the Albany in Bahamas. I mean, it's just insane. And then they said that they were wholly separate companies operating under the same roof. I mean, so how can you go up against that? If you're an exchange and you see say a load of stop losses at X amount, and you can make $1 million just by manipulating the price, wicking people out or whatever, then you're going to do it, and that happens.
Right.
And then you're up against the, even if you go on the decentralized exchanges, you're up against the insiders, the people who launch these tokens, who have control all the vast amounts of circulating supply. They're manipulating the market. They're insiders trading. I was in Telegram groups, for example, with some of the projects that we were working with their launch, and there'd be 50 influencers in this Telegram group. And the project would be like, hey, we're going to send out this big press release now about, whatever kind of piece of information. Let's all just pump it, all retweet, all really shill it hard in your own kind of communities or whatever. And that would send the market up. And then, this is no exaggeration to say, but then these teams would then be going to their market makers, right? Who are operating on these centralized, it's be like, okay, we're going to send this announcement out. We're expecting the token to pump. Be ready to start liquidating some of our team tokens, some of our treasury tokens into that pump.
Of course,
this stuff is commonplace,
right.
And it's just all so orchestrated. You're up against these cartels of insiders, cabals of insiders. So it's difficult to go up against that and come out in the green.
I agree. And for the listeners out there, I know there are a lot of people that follow me that have very little to no experience in crypto, and yet you're interested in this because, well, I've been talking about it, but not only me, but there's a lot of news out there right now. There's going to be a lot more news as this thing called euphoria starts to hit in the crypto communities. What Jake has described, what we've been talking about, is an entire industry that is pretty much against you, that's trying to manipulate you to come in and buy these tokens because you are what's called exit liquidity. In order for them to make money, they need more people buying the tokens. You are the people that are buying the tokens. And if they can manipulate you, and this industry is built around that, if they can manipulate you to do that, they profit at the end of the day. So if you will be to do this, and Jake mentioned this, I alluded to this as well. There's nothing that I can do, that Jake can do, that Parrot Capital can do to stop you from buying these tokens. But I would urge you to exercise caution. I would urge you to really adopt that mentality of not putting more money in than you are willing to lose completely, because the chances of you losing everything completely is pretty damn high. So please be advised on this. It's an industry that will eat you alive. It truly is.
Couldn't agree more. You took the words right out of my mouth there, Brett. Very, very eloquently put. And just to tie that point off, you see a lot of people in the industry kind of bemoaning the lack of regulation, the lack of so-called regulatory clarity, and they say, well, give us regulation. The thing is, the regulations already exist.
Right.
All these financial regulations against whatever market manipulation, against money laundering, that kind of stuff, they're all there. But then the crypto bros kind of turn around and say, well, you're applying a 50-year-old legislation to a nascent industry, to a young industry, that you can't apply the two. Well, of course you can. Legislation can be extended to incorporate, any kind of novel technology, right, which arises. So, what I want to see is, more. I mean, I suppose you kind of have to give the regulators credit, but I want to see more enforcement. Them coming down on the bad actors, and I really want to get to a point where crypto is so boring that people avoid it because of that. But you kind of have this. So in the EU with ESMA, which is the European Securities and Market Authority, you can trade crypto, certain crypto on certain exchanges which are very heavily regulated, and you can even use leverage. But you can use 2x leverage, so you can trade. You need 50% margin to trade, and that that is boring.
It is. It is.
The thing is, even with all the mad volatility crypto has, even that is boring for people. But the thing is, there are so many offshore exchanges in places like the BVI, Seychelles, Cayman Islands, wherever. And they're offering up to 1,000x leverage,
Right.
sometimes more. So people are just, they whatever, either getting a VPN if they need to, or very often they're not, literally just going onto the site because there's no KYC or anything like that.
Right.
And then they're just trading there because they want that high leverage. So, it's a very big issue, kind of it's internationally coordinating, efforts and that kind of stuff. But I hope we get to the point one day when it's just so boring that, people lose interest.
It would be nice. It would. I'm not sure that we get there. It's so we're to hear some people tell we're still in the bull run. We're getting ready for the euphoria part of the run as well. How many more bull runs do you think we've got until maybe hopefully some of this stuff starts to peter out and we see some reason and some logic and some rationale looking at this segment?
Yeah, I don't know. These kind of predictions are always tricky. I mean, this is actually a big problem when I was writing the book, and I addressed this in a quick author's note at the start. When I was writing the book, one of the biggest challenges was actually something which I encountered in the industry, which is just how fast it moves. So I'd write a chapter, about this, whoever, some kind of character, some persona within the industry about their downfall, and then I'd look on, I'd get a notification on my phone the next day saying that they've made a comeback, they're launching a new project. So when I was writing the afterword, when I finished the book, Bitcoin was at, I can't remember what it was, say 30K or so, and in the afterword I say I don't know what's going to happen. The halvings in 2024, it's very likely that at the time you're reading this, Bitcoin's at a new all-time high. And then, lo and behold, a few weeks later, Bitcoin hits a new all-time high.
Right.
So I'm going to have to rework that slightly.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen. The industry is a bit of a hydra. So you cut off one head and then two emerge. So you kind of shut down one kind of fraudulent exchange and then two more pop up. NFTs now that's over. That was
thank
big.
God. Thank God.
That was the thing in the last cycle. A lot of the book is talking about what these NFT projects were doing and just how ridiculous all that was. That's over now, and now it's into meme coins. So there will be some new narrative. I think there is. There's no doubt about that. There'll always be something else. And then if it's not crypto, it'll be another industry. We saw this similar things with penny stocks back in the day, obviously famously with Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. I guess we saw echoes of this to some extent in the in the tech bubble, and these things happen. So if crypto does come to an end, then something else will come up, and the gamblers will move over there.
You're right. There's always something. Jake Donoghue, he is author of Crypto Confidential, an insider's account from the Frontlines of Fraud. It is out August 22nd. So look, you have ever thought about engaging in crypto, if you've ever engaged in crypto, if you're still in crypto, I would urge you to pick up this book, because if you've been listening to this conversation, you hear a man who is objective, who is truthful, who is simply telling you the way the industry operates. And if you will be to spend your money in that segment, you should spend it knowing how things actually work, to be somewhat informed, because that will absolutely give you a leg up on the other 99% of the uninformed individuals that are in that segment. So, Jake Donoghue, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Criminal Thoughts podcast. You, my friend, are absolutely amazing.
Brett, my pleasure entirely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been really great to speak.
Yes, sir. Thank you again so much. All right, so that was Jake Donoghue on today's Criminal Thoughts podcast. Hey, Jake is outstanding. The book is Crypto Confidential, an insider account from the Frontlines of Fraud. It's by Jake Donoghue. It's out August 22nd. So, hey, please buy the book. I think the guy's outstanding. The guy's worked his ass off, and the guy's an insider that's simply telling the truth. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of insiders who decide that they just want to tell the truth, they suffer a lot of consequences from that. So he's taken the time, he's taken the chances of this, and I think that we owe it to him to to support him by purchasing this book. So please purchase the book. My name is Brett Johnson. This is the Criminal Thoughts Podcast. We're going to close things out. How do we do that? Well, first we do it by saying, hey, have you subscribed to the Criminal Thoughts Podcast? And you're going to look and say, well, no. Well, why haven't you? Well, I just hadn't thought about doing it yet. Now that you've thought about subscribing, why aren't you pressing the fucking button? Well, I guess I could press the fucking button. Take your little fucking finger and press the fucking subscribe button, and you're going to press it. I'm going to be happy, and you're going to be happy, and everything's going to be just fine. So please subscribe. All right, please subscribe. I need all the subscribers I can get. My name is Brett Johnson. We're going to close things out. How do we do it? We do it by saying stay safe out there, stay secure, and stay vigilant. That's what's important. Stay vigilant. There are predators out there, and you need to be aware of that. Keep your eyes open at all times. More importantly, at the end of the day, just do the right damn thing. My name is Brett Johnson. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to tune in. Until next time.